It happened in less than 10 minutes, you know what I mean? One minute I was standing in my front yard fixing a fence I built with my own hands. The next minute I was in handcuffs, staring at the inside of a police car, trying to understand how my entire life could be reduced to a single word someone else used about me: suspicious. Yeah, that happened. And the wild part is, it did not start with anger or shouting or anything dramatic like that. It started with a quiet Saturday morning, birds, fresh air, the kind of calm you only get when you think nothing bad could possibly touch you where you are standing. My name is Daniel Brooks. I am a construction company owner, a homeowner, a husband, a dad, and for most of my life I believed that if you followed the rules, worked hard, stayed respectful, eventually the world would meet you halfway. I believed that right up until the day a stranger decided I did not belong in my own yard. That morning started like any other storm the night before. One fence board knocked loose, nothing major, just one of those little things you either fix or it nags at you all day. I grabbed my toolbox, put on my work jeans, stepped outside, and there I was, hammer in hand, working slow and steady, not rushing, enjoying the quiet. Because honestly, those moments are rare when you run a business when your phone is usually ringing off the hook. My truck was in the driveway with my company logo on both doors, Brooks and Carter. Development, my name right there. Phone number clear as day. I had lived on Cedar Hollow Drive for 8 years, paid my mortgage, waved to my neighbors, shoveled snow, hosted barbecues, did all the things you do when you think you are finally somewhere safe. But safety is funny like that. It feels solid until it suddenly is not. Somewhere behind a curtain, behind a window, someone saw me and did not see a homeowner. They saw a black man with tools, and their brain filled in the rest of the story for them. They picked up the phone, called the police, and said the words that change everything: suspicious, man possible, break in. Officer Kyle Mercer got that call, and I did not know his name yet, but I felt his presence before I even saw him. Footsteps behind me, heavy, deliberate, that tone in the air that tells you this is not a friendly hello. Step away from the fence, sir. I turned, confused, honestly confused, because nothing about what I was doing felt like it needed explaining. I said, I am just fixing my fence. That should have been the end of it. Instead, he told me they had received a call that I was acting suspicious, and I felt that drop in my chest. That quiet, sinking feeling I have felt too many times before in my life, the feeling that tells you this conversation is not about facts anymore. I said calmly, this is my house, I live here, I can show you my ID, and I remember thinking, if I stay calm, if I do everything right, this will resolve. He did not even look at the truck, did not glance at the house number, did not ask a single clarifying question. He just stared at me like he had already decided who I was before I opened my mouth. Do you have proof? He asked, hand moving closer to his weapon, and I pointed to the driveway, my truck, my name, my livelihood, parked 10 feet away. He told me to keep my hands where he could see them, told me not to reach for anything, and suddenly neighbors were watching. You could feel eyes on your back. You could feel the story forming in real time, the spectacle of it. I said my name, said I owned the house, said I was repairing storm damage, offered again to show my license. And he shook his head like I was insulting his intelligence. You are acting suspicious, he said, and that word suspicious hung there heavier than anything else. That is the moment you realize how thin the line is, how quickly a misunderstanding turns into a confrontation, how little control you actually have once someone with authority stops listening. When he told me to turn around and put my hands behind my back, I felt anger. Yeah. But more than that, I felt fear. The kind you do not show, the kind you swallow because you know how fast things can escalate. I knew arguing would not help. I knew raising my voice could end badly, so I complied, and I said it out loud for the neighbors, for the cameras that were starting to come out. I am complying under protest. I live here. You are arresting me for fixing my own fence. Someone across the street yelled that I lived there. Someone else said they were recording, and none of it mattered. The cuffs went on tight, too tight, pain shooting through my wrists, and I was told I was under arrest for criminal trespass and obstruction. Trespass. On my own property. I was walked past my own fence, past my own truck, past people who knew me, who looked shocked and helpless, and I was put into the back of a patrol car like I was a problem that needed to be removed. Sitting there looking through the glass, I remember thinking how surreal it felt, how quiet it was inside that car compared to the noise outside, and how quickly dignity can be taken from you without anyone laying a hand on your soul. 14 minutes later felt like an hour, but that is when Sergeant Lisa Moreno showed up, and you could tell immediately she saw the scene differently. She listened to the neighbors, she looked at the truck, The fence, the tools still sitting there, and you could almost see the frustration settle into her face. She radioed for the transport to stop, ordered Officer Mercer back to the scene, and when he returned, there was no yelling, no drama, just questions that should have been asked from the beginning. Did you verify residency? Did you check his ID when he offered? His answers sounded thin even to himself. Probable cause, safety concerns, the usual phrases. And Sergeant Moreno walked to the car, looked me in the eye, and told me she was sorry. The cuffs came off, leaving red marks that stayed for days, and she said what happened should never have happened. I nodded, because what else do you do in that moment? The apology does not rewind time. It does not erase the fact that your neighbors saw you cuffed in your yard, that your kids would hear about it, that the sense of belonging you thought you had just cracked. By that night, the videos were everywhere, shared millions of times, comments pouring in from people saying they had been there, that this was their story too. I hired a lawyer not because I wanted money, but because I wanted the truth documented, because I wanted someone to say out loud that this was wrong. The lawsuit moved forward, the city reviewed the evidence, the videos, the witness statements, and eventually they settled $3.1 million, policy changes, body cameras, oversight boards, all the things that look good in a press release. Officer Mercer lost his job, his badge revoked, career over before 30, and people kept asking me if that felt like justice. I thought about it for a long time, and the honest answer is, this justice would have been finishing my fence and going inside for lunch, like nothing ever happened. The money did not give me that back. It did not take away the memory of sitting in that car, or the knowledge that if I had not been who I was, if I had not had resources, witnesses, cameras, this could have ended very differently. I finished that fence the next weekend. Neighbors stopped by, brought coffee, offered help, and the board went back into place easily, because it was never about the fence. It was about who gets the benefit of the doubt and who does not. So here is where I want to leave you, because this story is bigger than me. How many times does something like this have to happen before we stop calling it a mistake and start calling it a pattern? How many complaints are too many before someone with power loses that power? If this can happen to a business owner in his own front yard, what happens when there are no cameras, no witnesses, no lawyers waiting in the wings? That is the question I want you to sit with. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if you think this was justice or just damage control. Tell me if you have seen something like this where you live. And if you have your own story, share it. Because the only way these moments stop being isolated incidents is when people refuse to stay silent about them.